and welcome. My name's Greg. Today I'm going to be running through some tips on how to play Total War Arena. Now this is not an introduction to Total War Arena, this is just a couple of tips on what you may not already be doing to hopefully improve your game. These are a couple of things that I've kind of been jotting down over time that are just a good reminder on different aspects of the game that can help you to improve. Some of them you might have forgotten or don't do enough. So first of all, the first tip is understand how games are won and lost. There are two ways to win the game. You can either capture a base or you can win on points. There's two ways to lose. You can either be base captured or you can lose on points. You can be winning on points but still lose your base, so you must always be mindful of base capture. If it looks like the enemy is going to capture your base, consider trying to capture the locations that are opening up your base capture. Alternatively, you can fall back and remove the enemy forces from your base. Often a base push can mean that they're not sufficiently defending capture points, so this opens up the opportunity to take those points back or to capture points that you don't already contain. Also, pressing for base capture often backfires, as the respawn or healing zones are a lot further away than your base, so if they lose forces to replenish them, it takes a lot longer than what it does for you when you're defending your base. Capturing a base often requires you to have a couple of different things. You need sufficient time, you need the units, you need the capture points to open up the base, and you also need the health to achieve the capture, because over time your forces will get whittled away and you need to make sure that you're approaching with a decent number. If you're lacking in one of those, the base push can often fail or not be possible. I'd only recommend trying for base capture if you're behind in points and your team has sufficient units on hand to coordinate the push. You can always push for base when you're way ahead just to try and get the battle over and done with, but I see quite often they do fail when you get too greedy and push forward. If the units that you're pushing forward are only half strength or lower, they might not last in the push for their base, and then you've got to heal up or you need to respawn, and that can often mean that the enemy has the chance to push and take control of the map. You also need to consider what units you'll push with. There's no point pushing up with 10 units of ranged when the enemy has a lot of cavalry that can fall back and take you out. Some units can be cleared from a location quickly by enemy ranged, and some units can tank for a lot longer. You'll need to consider how to tackle their base spawn, releasing dogs into their base spawn, or leaving a unit that can last for a long time in an engagement with a morale buffing ability like a Leonidas Hold the Line or Guan Yu God of War, or like a Scipio Cav would be very strong. If you're releasing the dogs into the base spawn, you can put the handlers into the base, so they'll be capturing the base whilst the dogs are preventing the units from getting out. Or leaving 1 to 2 infantry units around the base spawn just to tie them up and prevent them from running out is a good tactic. Pike boxing is a good one too, where you got 2 pikes and they're basically preventing, or 3 pikes preventing the units from running out. They just die over and over, and that's one of the good mechanisms to actually prevent people from getting out of there. The second way to win is through the capture of points. The points are accrued over time by holding the strategic locations around the map, A, B, C, D, E. Obviously you can't have the forward capture points without the back ones, so you need to make sure that you have them first, and if your capture points are contested, you don't get the points per second from them, so you got to make sure that your capture points aren't being contested, and you got to make sure that you're contesting the enemy capture points to deny them the points. Obviously you need 3,500 points to win a battle, and the points are accrued over time, so make sure that you're always defending and pressing enemy capture points in order to get those points for the victory. The second point I want to go through is understanding your unit and commander abilities and when to use them. All units are different. The tiers can also make the units play differently. Some units might have a charge, whereas their predecessor or the higher tier option doesn't have a charge, or the commander abilities might be unlocked after you reach, say for instance, tier 3 or tier 5 for the ultimate ability. So make sure you understand what those abilities do, when to use them, and how to use them. Some abilities you can accidentally pop all three at once when you don't need to. Some of them are an AoE. Some of them buff your friendly units at the same time. So you really need to understand what they can do and when to use them. Say for instance God of War, you don't need to pop all three of them at once. You can pop one, wait a while, pop the second one, the third one. Same with Hold the Line, Rebellion, and a couple of those other abilities that buff your friendly units. You need to just time them properly. So even things like the strike moves, the ones that have effects that cool down on the enemy units after a period of time. Say for instance you're going to slam someone with a barbarian unit. You slam them, wait for the ability to run down, slam from the second one, slam from the third, so that that ability is on them for a lot longer without the ability dropping off. And it also helps to cycle through them so that they don't that you can get them back before the ability runs out. Say for instance here the cooldown of 14 seconds, duration of 8 seconds, so you could realistically just cycle through them and they would have the slam on them the whole time. The reduction in movement speed wouldn't allow them to get out of that engagement very easily. So that's very important to understand your unit and command their abilities and when to use them. The third tip I have, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is understanding the hotkeys associated with your abilities. This is a major one, and this can elevate your reaction time and your gameplay to the next level. Using the hotkeys instead of manually clicking the abilities down the bottom here frees up the mouse to be used to position your units a lot more effectively on the map. It also allows you to scan around the battlefield a bit more instead of having to constantly go down here. So learn the hotkeys F, G, H, R, T, Y, and if you've got a consumable down the bottom here, then you'd be using that. If you've got another ability also, just make sure that you get comfortable using those hotkeys. Even 1, 2, 3 cycling through your units can help free up the mouse to position your units on the battlefield. It does feel uncomfortable to begin with, but once you get used to it, you'll notice that you're able to maneuver around the battlefield, even pull your units out of an engagement, wrap them around. It allows you to multitask and do a lot more quickly on the battlefield, and after getting used to it, you will improve a lot. And that's a really, really important tip when playing the game. Often I see people drag their mouse down, click the ability, and it's like a whole second they're wasting going down, 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 and it's just not an efficient way to play the game. The next tip I have for you is grasping the flanking mechanism. Now, when you're in battle, it's sometimes very easy to just get caught up in what's happening in front of you and you don't actually focus on flanking the enemy units and routing them. It is one of the strongest mechanisms you can use in an engagement, trying to get the side or rear flanks of an enemy unit and dropping their morale. It is something I quite often get a bit frustrated when I see your units go up and blob, or a friendly unit go up and blob, and then the enemy can just get either side of them and cycle through their units to rout them very, very quickly. It is something you definitely need to get comfortable with, understanding when your units are getting flanked, when your enemy units are getting flanked, and when flanks deactivate. Sometimes you're in an engagement and for some reason the flank doesn't activate, you just got to pull your unit round and try and target it again, and it can speed up the rate at which you're going to route an enemy unit in order to get them out of the engagement. And that's actually really important when you're trying to capture a base, to try and route the units, because that will not count towards a unit either capping or preventing capture of a base. If they're routed, they're not going to be factored into the calculation of units in the base. So make sure you get those flanks on and route those units as quickly as possible. The next tip is understanding Chevrons and Death. This is a new addition to the game in the NetEase release, and it is something you definitely need to consider for prolonged battles. So the chevrons give very, very good buffs to your units over time. At the first chevron, if you can get that early in the battle, you will get a very big advantage over the enemy units. It's only a 10% buff on your statistics, but it seems like if you can get that early, the second one comes quickly, the third one, and then before you know it, you've got stars on all your units, and you're absolutely dominating the battlefield. So if you can get kills early, maintain your XP in order to get those chevrons, you'll do very well on the battlefield. And you also need to understand that you need to deny them from getting their XP up in chevrons, and the way you do that is by not letting them kill your units, which is an obvious thing to say, but to also make sure you kill them so that they cannot go back and heal. If they can go back and heal, they maintain their XP on the units, they're going to get their chevron development, and they're going to come back with a chevron, and they're going to make you pay. So you need to make sure that you kill enemy units, you don't die, and you make sure you get back and heal before your units die. Don't go into a second engagement half healed with half strength and then die quickly. You're going to lose all of your XP from the first engagement, and then you're going to have to heal up, and you've just given them a whole lot of XP, and that's going to give them chevrons to come back at you through the whole battle, and you're going to struggle. So make sure you understand the chevrons and death. The next point, and this is something outside of the battlefield that I really recommend that players do, is to socialize. So get onto Discord, join the Discord groups for the big clans and the social groups, and communicate with other players. And you can also do this without Discord. I find Discord's a good mechanism for communicating with other players, but you can also just add people in game when you play a battle with them and party up with them. I think that's an important thing about the game, especially when you're playing against the AI units, or you're playing with AI units. If you can party up with people and go into a battle with, 2 or 3 other humans, it makes it a lot more enjoyable than playing one-on-one with another human with 9 bots on either side, which unfortunately happens to me quite a lot, just because of the time zone I'm in. So I would recommend downloading Discord and getting onto the Total War Arena Discord groups. I'll put a couple of the Discord groups into the description of this video. If anyone's watching this and they want to get their clan or their social group added to the description of this video, I'm more than happy to add it. I will be adding a couple in there, and that list can grow. No harm in putting more in there, and jump on there. And there's one in particular which is purely designed about grouping people together and partying, so I would heavily recommend joining that. But after a battle, if you notice someone is working with you well, I would just add them as a friend in game and socialize with them. The last tip I have is playing simple. Often this is overlooked. If you're not super proficient in splitting your forces and ensuring you don't get overwhelmed on the battlefield, keep your units together, maintain those protective flanks either side of your units, keep your abilities activated, make sure you go through your strike moves and use them, and have fun. Play the game a lot. At the end of the day, unless you're in a tournament, every game needs to be played with a good spirit and play for a bit of fun. I don't play this to be super serious. I play it because I enjoy the game and I like having my friends on the battlefield with me, having fun playing the game. And that's, at the end of the day, why we play. And that's all. That's all I have really for the tips for now. If you have any good tips that could be added to the list, I'm more than happy to add them, and maybe I can make another video later on with some additional tips on how to play the game or to improve your gameplay. But this is the list that I've been jotting down over time. I could probably make a 20-minute video on each and every single one of these points and go into them in more detail, but that would be quite boring to go through every single one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Of course, add some comments in, add your Discord channels if you want to have them added to the list. The various different languages could suit your preference. Some people might only want to communicate with Germans or Italians, and I'm more than happy to add some of their clan Discord groups to the description. And try and build that list so you can communicate with players around and hopefully progress your gameplay and get better. Anyway, once again, let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.